Right, nearly ready to go. Okay, here I am. Trying to get myself into the middle of the picture there. And so, what have I got here? I've got some 15mm models, and they're from a company called Slave 2 Gaming. And I have based them up for Grunt's 15mm, the game. And before me, you can see a variety of them in the range where I've put them onto group basing. I use these circular bases. In fact, they are very cheap washers that you can buy from all good local hardware stores. Hardware stores. And size-wise, actually, and I'm diving off into the bases, these are all 40mm washers. And although I do have some 2p pieces, I'm using, there's the Queen's face underneath. So she's not defaced, she's just hiding. So what I want to do is talk about them because they are not finished. That's to start with, they are just work in progress. Although I do have some finished 15mm models down here to compare them to. So I've got some Brigade models. I've got some of these Clockwork Goblin to compare to as well. I've got some Ground Zero Games miniatures. Yeah, so I just thought that, oh, and another Ground Zero Games one's there. So I thought I'd go in close up so you can go, okay, what's the scale of them? I know they're 15mm, but how do they match up against the other ranges? And then just generally talk about them, and I can show the Slave 2 Gaming website at the same time so you get a feel for the range that they've got, which they've just started out. So they've got some walkers and, well, they're all kind of walkers because none of them are standard infantry. They've all got some kind of powered suit on. And I can talk about that range a little bit as we go through. So without further ado, let me just check. I'm going to make a noise with my mic because I've realised that it's maybe not set up as best it can be. There is the mic. It's nearly pointing at me. I'll cut this bit out. Right. Mic is now in the correct place, and okay, so let's zoom down and have a look at these and get some close-ups. So what I might do initially is just do a kind of a no-talk zoom in and put the music on without my. So what I might do is a no-talk piece initially. I'll just put some music on and then I'll zoom into these closely. So I'll get the Zoya fired up, making some sounds, and you won't hear me for a moment. Okay, so that was a close-up on these, so you got a good feel for what they look like, and now I shall do a little bit more of a deeper dive on comparing their size. So if we have a look at, for example, I'll pick out these Ground Zero Games powered armor troops here, and I'll measure them up against the kind of egg suit ones that we've got on view there too, and just run through as a sort of discussion of those. I think that's nearly in focus. Pop my face up again there. So if I pick up this powered suit here, in fact this one is called the Maschinen Krieger IMA SAFS, or SAFs. And if you compare them there to the Ground Zero Games powered armor, they're pretty much really in scale. I mean, the powered armor from GZG, you can see it has its lower legs are slightly thicker, but only by the fact they've got kind of an armoured plating on there, really. And, I think they're comparable height-wise. I'm trying to measure them up there. There's really not much in it at all, and it's just more of a style thing. These have this retro egg tub look where you could see the lid popping off and the guy sitting in there. and these are more your normal anatomically kind of just like heavy armor with slightly interesting panda-esque faces or heads on there, with almost like a little ears on the side of the head that could be highlighted in the paint job. But otherwise they seem to scale well with the Ground Zero games. And then I've got some of the Clockwork Goblin, which did that sort of alternative 1947 feel to their powered armor troopers. You can see these sort of German style. Are these the German ones? I think. And yeah, they look quite nice scale-wise up against them as well for a kind of a powered suit. And they kind of suit the setting almost too. And if we compare them to, so some actual brigade models, 15mm troopers. Now these are slightly, I think these are the SAS type ones, I think that brigade models do, but they are slightly chunkier style of figure. You know, they have that large head because they've got a gas mask and everything on. But again, that you could say they're probably a little bit bigger, a bit more chunky really. Let's have a look at some. So again, I've got some of that Clockwork Goblin, but these are their actual 15mm troopers, not in powered armor. And again, you can see, you know, it looks like a pretty perfect match as a trooper on his own, and then in what they'd look like in a suit would just about cover it, because of course they've got shoulder pads and things on there. So they look pretty good. And now this is an unusual choice. I picked out these Ground Zero Games troops, and I think there's been some noise from the very niche small community that we are, that are 15mm sci-fi, that think this is probably a bit too long lengthways, this guy lying down, but he looks, they look okay. Again, they look comparable. And of course these have got hard suits on anyway, so they're going to be bumped up size-wise, super kind of fighters. But yeah, comparable again. I mean, I could get another set of these out. So these guys are the IMA AFS Mark 1, I think they are. They could be Mark 2. Differences are difficult to see, but again, you can see how much larger they are than the standard sort of infantry. Let's get those brigade models guys out again, and you can see they're still a little bit taller because of the powered suits that they've got on. To me anyway, they're a good fit. So, you know, there's nothing, you know, when you do sort of size comparisons, some people are bothered about the millimeter here and there. For me, I bend the rules anyway. So I'm quite likely to play things. I've even picked out some 28mm models I've used before that might be considered too large, like a large armored warrior suit or something, or just a mecha. But then, you know, I'm quite happy to sort of bend the scale a little bit to accommodate the fact that they're just sort of tokens in a game rather than being too precisely worried. But I have had examples in the past with 15mm where they're drastically different and they just look too odd. And, you know, an infantry model might be too skinny and tall, or another brand might be too chunky. I mean, I guess these ones from Brigade are on the chunkier side, but showing off that sort of domed helmet gear. But they still look like a good kind of cute match, really, for the different ranges, and that you'd get away with that. And again, it depends on what you're after. Are you trying to do a game where you want to do everything, not only in scale but in genre as well, and say, well, actually these, you know, I'm not going to play these in a low tech settings, even though they might be called slightly lower tech period for, you know, alternative World War III or World War II extended. Or am I going to play them in a mixed setting, you know, in a traveller style universe where you might say, okay, that's a low tech planet, they happen to use this stuff, but you might be going up against them with slightly more traditional future sci-fi style. I know I'll be doing a kind of more of a mix and match. I'm not going to go all out to sort of have these perfectly set in a particular arena, but I certainly would like to do a game where I mix and match in maybe some World War II infantry as well, up against these kind of heavier armoured suits. So that could be some fun. So if we have a look now Actually, I can do this. If I can bring up the mini desk, get rid of my face, go to the view there, so you can sort of see the stuff here. If I zoom in as well, so I can potentially show off the model. There we go. So basically, to start with, it's not very clear. They could do with some larger images, I think, on their website. Hopefully, I can zoom in to these. But this is the classic IMA SFS pack. SAFs, maybe. I don't know the how people pronounce them. And there you go. You've got that egg style suit. So you can see, you know, straight away that one there with the gun pointing out here. If I wiggle my finger, I better point at that a little bit better. So yeah, so with the gun pointing out to the side, the kind of antenna style aerial on the top. And if I just wiggle that one extra bit, better get in even closer just momentarily. So yeah, you can see this one here. They're called Independent Mercenary Army. Yeah, those are nice. So you get a pack of 6. So if you were basing like I am for grunts, you're essentially getting a pack of 6 with slightly different, well, it looks like you've got 2 repeats of poses there. This one is a particular pose, and then you've got this sort of side view. So yeah, that's those guys. If I go back to the screen before, and you've got a Mark II of these AFS and a Mark I. Now, I must admit, I'm not seeing that very easily when I zoom into these. I'm trying to discern the difference here when I was putting them together. What did we have? So is this a Mark II or is this a Mark? So shoulder pads, helmets with visors. So these look like the Mark IIs. These are a match for those. Yeah, these are these guys. Yeah, these are the Mark II. And like them, I must admit the paint job on these ones on their site looks a little bit of sort of American football style. But they grew on me, definitely, as I've had them here ready to get prepped and sorted out. They do look nice. And they're, again, different than the egg suits and different powered armour generally. I like the, you can't really see that on the website, but they've got really nice backpacks. Let's zoom into the backpacks on that side view there. So yeah, you can see quite large backpacks on the back that give them more of an eggy, give them more of a slightly, you know, lean towards that egg suit style, but look really nice. I reckon doing those backpacks in a slightly different colour, like accessories in a different accent, would look great. So that's those. Again, 6 per pack there. Get rid of that picture. And that's, I think that's a good price. Obviously, that's in Aussie dollars there, the 13.50. So comparable to sterling and US dollar, that's quite a shift. I can't remember what the actual exchange rate at the moment is, but it's quite favourable. I don't know if it's like half. Is it something like 50 pence gives you 1 Aussie dollar, which means it's probably not that good, but it's going to be reasonably good price comparison. And then the Mark I of those suits. Again, as I said before, I didn't really, I think they look a little bit more simple, but I didn't really see these as I was going through and working through. Now they have a smaller backpack, that's it. So you can find the set on a base. I should be able to tell the difference by the backpacks. No, I can't. They all look like they've got the same backpacks. Maybe I haven't got any of these Mark Is. There's a strong possibility I don't have any of these, although it's tough spotting the difference. So apologies to Slave to Gaming. This must be a Mark I because you can see you've got that raised fist in the air look. Well, that's sort of like stand by me, or yeah, so that looks like to be that guy in the top left. So this is a Mark I. I'm worried now that I've called the other ones, the Mark IIs, a Mark I now, but Yeah, I may only have Mark 1, so apologies if I've made that mistake. It's not something I've been able to sort of spot easily, the difference between the two. Someone will be able to tell me in the comments, hopefully, how crazily wrong I am. So now onto the armour. So, I say with the these SDR models as well, they are obviously a different faction. Let's see what they've got on here. If we bring it up, the Stral Democratic Republic SDR. So these look like they have a more of a sort of Russian theme feel to them, and they certainly have. They're not the pure egg style look, but they're definitely got that sort of large visor region, and they have a kneeling one in that set. So again, you get a set of 6 with a couple of repeat poses in there. These ones seem to have these sort of RPG kind of launcher there, so this is probably from a slightly different set. They all kind of look like they mix and match okay. So let's have a look at the set that they come with the RPGs. Here we are. Yeah, there we go. So they've got RPGs on there in hand by the looks of it to launch. Quite interesting, isn't it, the whole idea that they're carrying these and we'll be able to sort of launch them without having to even stick them in the ground because they've got the powered armoured suits on. You can see them in action there, if we can bring them in. Why not bring that into full focus there? I think that's going to look good with some sort of visor canopy glass in there. I might go for a dark red on the canopy glass actually from a black, almost like it's polarized. And then we have quite a large backpack on those again, which is just excellent detailing on the rear. Just all around here as well, some sort of exhaust. You need to go in a bit closer on that. Yeah, so very nice. There was one that was like a command guy here, so let's get that up. And let's get in close, and also so that's him there, sort of slightly squat down. It's the one in the corner there. Try and get the same pose as the photo. And if I shoot back up to the actual scene, you can see that super big. It's a nice pose again, brilliant sculpt. A little extra detail, some sort of command tracer pointer, laser pointer on the top. But the same sort of backpack with little exhausts. And then that it's going to look great when this is painted to show the different visor colour in there. Sort of pick a slightly contrasting colour. So for my command models for grunts, I paste them on, as I said before, there's the Queen's Head 2p piece for this command model. And then the squad leaders are on 1p pieces. Yeah, so for the structure in grunts, although I do the basing at 3 at a time, as I've said here, the squad leader would be on a separate base. And squads are from between 3 and 9 in size. So you'd get 3 models on there, then a squad leader, that's a size 3 sort of squad, but then you'd go up to 6, which would be 2 bases like this, plus the squad leader, or 3, and 3 bases like this. In fact, it can go up to 4 as well. So they're under the command of 1 squad leader. So just go back again to the MA.K, the website, the Slave to Gaming website, so that we can now look at the different walkers that they've got. So this one is called a Kroat. I wonder what Kroat means in German. Kroat with rotary autocannon. So let's bring that up. I think this is probably my favourite. I mean, people don't like the reverse look necessarily to the walker legs, but I do. It just works for me. I know it's a sort of quirky Japanese style, and it probably doesn't look like it can walk very well traditionally, with a couple of big old chunky springs on there, but it works for me. Why not show that there close too? So you can see the rotary autocannon in the front. You can see all the other detailing here, which is fantastic for the pilot being able to put out, is it grenades or smoke canisters through these little add-on sections. You've got some nice plate welding area there. And again, the engine component is nicely detailed. I mean, you could really go to town on, when this is painted, I'm going to put some oil and muck and everything around there just to really give it a gritty, filthy look. Field repair work done with oil and traditional carburettor style engine. And that's a nice detail there as well, isn't it, in terms of tiny valve there that could be some sort of cut off, and the fact that they've put some metalwork around. It's another MA.K generally, they have exposed sections on there, which just gives them the general feel. You're less likely to have armor plating over some inner working with an MA.K model than you are with traditional sort of sci-fi, modern sci-fi. Why not go back to the screen again? So one of my favourites, that one, definitely. It definitely helps to, I would suggest, if you're putting this together, I would not align the sort of turret section with the body legs. I think it looks good if you have that slight angle. It looks like it's sort of taking a look to the side. In fact, if I go back and zoom it in at an appropriate zoom level, you can see, if I move over, how that glance to the side of that model just feels right. We've got it straight aligned with this guy, nearly straight aligned with the larger cannon on there, but with the rotary auto machine gun. That's it. It's a little bit more in focus now. Yeah, you can see that the glance to the side positioning, the sort of torso twist there is a nice, sort of sets it off nicely, and sort of breaks that silhouette of the sort of the very straight leg, because the legs are very straight set, almost standing still pose. So yeah, tip there would be to mount them that way if you were gluing them together. And then the one with the big gun, let's see what that's called, if I try and remember correctly. It's just the 75mm gun version of the same Croat. Yeah, so it's the MA.K Croat with 75mm cannon. And say with these ones, you do just get one in the set, these walkers. And there's been a question, I've been working with the guys at Slave to Gaming, just discussing how we might design these in grunts, because some people are looking at them and maybe potentially do them as a special, like a heavy specialist unit, or is it a light walker? Obviously, I think I'd go for light walkers with these, but potentially the powered armor could come in as a light specialist unit as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be a grunt squad, but typically I would do powered armor as a powered armor grunt squad, quite a hard hitting unit. And then it kind of falls in line with the grunts, other powered armoured units that I've done over the last few years. But yes, that's the MA.K Croat. I mean, it looks a little bit ridiculous, doesn't it? I mean, if I zoom in and try not to crash things, go back to the desk. I mean, the view of this thing walking, it'd have to kind of keep a counterbalance in position as it fires. It's an unusual, sort of extreme design. But I like it. I like it. It's kind of slightly wacky and interesting, but I'd like to do it. And also, just, I mean, it's one of those things you forget about sometimes when you look at these. You might look at these and go, okay, well, it looks a bit ridiculous. But actually, on the gaming table, people are going to feel very threatened when you activate this unit and start to line it up. I like that idea of the sort of power play on the battlefield of, oh, you're activating that one with the big 75mm cannon, and slightly worrying feel when that happens. So yeah, that's a nice one. And what else do we have here? We have the other walkers, of which there's two. So it's basically for each faction there's two types of walkers, and they have the MA Goblin Walker and MA Jerry Walker. And really the difference between these is that the Goblin has a small missile launcher type array on the side, and the, what was it called? The Jerry has just what looks like a sort of machine gun. Oh, it says laser, so it has a laser on the side, so that's interesting. So if I zoom back on those, and let's show those two off. So we have here the, not the Jerry, this is the one, this is the Goblin, which has sort of a small rocket array on the side. It does have a machine gun under there, like a LMG. Or is that the laser itself? Does it say laser as well? No, it says laser, weaponry, and launcher. So yes, so it has a laser underslung under the carriage. Now again, first glance at these, I think you might think, well, it's a bit unusual looking. It's kind of almost like a kind of a rubber duck or something with a beak at the front. But I think when you paint this up and you can give it some chips, and dirty that up and maybe give it a slightly two-tone look, it's going to look like a big chunk of welded together metal. And it has the matching kind of canopies, almost like the canopies if we look down on the egg walkers down here on the top. So if you're doing an army and you decided to go for two-tone to differentiate the kind of hatch on the top of the walkers, you could match that with the walker as well and do that hatch in a similar two-tone paint scheme. I think whichever way you go, they definitely need a lot of weathering to give them that old school look. And this is the other, this is the Jerry Walker, and yeah, it has a kind of unusual thing sticking out the front. Now, so okay, so this one has, it's sort of styled to have that canopy on the top. If you look at that walker, it has that canopy sort of on the top, and then actually the Jerry, I know it's the Goblin, I get it around the right way, the Goblin then matches the more exosuit walker on the canopy on the top. It's almost like it's sort of plucked that design feature, which must be people that know MA.K a lot must know that reasoning behind that match there. But yeah, I really like them generally. Desperate to get some paint on them, as you can see. Oh, that's the one thing I didn't show off is scale-wise. This is the Clockwork Goblin, one of the Clockwork Goblin walkers, which was a kind of alternative 47 type range, and you can see similar theming again. Kind of what would you call it? Diesel punk maybe, with a heavy retro armor. But you can see scale-wise. This I would, in grunts, I would have had this as a specialist walker, so this wouldn't be a full-on mecha. It's a specialist with a couple of weapon systems attached. Very heavy armor, maybe very slow as well. Whereas this would be a light scout walker, or maybe one grade above that size-wise, to give it a little bit more punch with a slightly heavier range of weapons. This would be sort of anti-infantry weapons. This might have a slightly different payload, and definitely heavier, but possibly moving faster as well than this one. So yeah, and again another comparison between the Clockwork infantry powered walkers there. They look like they would have they'd fit that setting quite nicely if you're going to mix and match. So yeah, I'll go back to myself. This was intended to be this was intended to be a short one, really just to show off some of these. I've had them for a while, and they've been prepped and undercoated, and they now need some work. And it's that classic, I need to get myself in action and get some airbrushing done on this. I did a lot of the sort of, with the Billion Suns launch, I did some airbrushing of some of the brigade models, sci-fi spaceships, starships, and those have all been put up onto the channel. But these are my next focus, really. I want to get some paint on these, and I'll show that. So probably the next version of this video on the progress of these will be picking some paints and then doing some basic airbrushing on top of them as well. With the Billion Suns video, I spent a very long time doing like an hour and a half total video. With this one, I'll probably stick to a shorter format video where I just zoom in on the airbrushing, then do a next video on the weathering and pin washing, and then go from there. So it's like in stages rather than one big bulk, because that also puts a lot of pressure on me. Putting together a whole half an hour format video in one hit is quite a lot of work, but it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to getting these done, and then also getting some stats organised. I've got lots of ideas for them, but we'll get a game going, and then we'll show some sample stats cards as well, which I can share after that. So actually, yeah, next step painting, airbrushing, and then after that a game demo of them in action as well. So you can see this big. Let's put it up to my face so you get a sort of scale size. But yeah, you can see this beast firing that 75mm cannon across the tabletop, and that will be a bit of fun seeing it in live action. Okay, thanks for listening. Goodbye.